welcome everybody to the webinar informational series. Just wanted to bring everybody's pictures bigger a little bit so everybody can see one another. We're going to be covering a little bit of our Public Health Leadership Institute today. Probably give you about 30 minutes of a conversation and then open it up for Q&A as we go forward. So I'm going to minimize this since we all, some have cameras off, and we'll go through the slides. So my name is Stephen Murphy, and I am the principal investigator and the director of the Region 6 Public Health Training Center, which is kind of the funded mechanism that sponsors the Region 6 Public Health Leadership Institute. So we'll go through and have a little bit of an agenda here. We'll introduce our team, give you an idea of how we operate, some of the other projects that might be help you understand how we sit at Tulane University School of Public Health and Tropical Medicine, and go through some of the eligibility criteria, a little bit of what the Leadership Institute is and what it's not, and then kind of open it up for Q&A after that. So a little bit of an introduction here. I'll let the team kind of jump in. I'll ping pong it off, and if the team wants to jump in and say hello, our program manager, Mr. Chuck Shorter.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm the manager of the Region 6 Public Health Training Center, and within which the Leadership Institute resides. Thanks for joining today.
Great. And Miss Kathy Carnero.
Hey, good morning. Kathy, project administrator for the center.
Thanks, Kathy. All right, David Mora.
Good morning, everybody. I'm David Mora. I'm the LMS administrator and instructional designer for Region 6. I also am in charge of the communications and the hub for the Leadership Institute. Thank y'all for joining.
You've probably heard from David already. Miss Janine Clark. I think I saw her hop on here.
I'm here. Hi, I'm Janine Clark. I'm the lead instructional designer for the center.
And Stacy Harb.
Woohoo, my turn. Hi, I'm Stacy E. Harb. I am one of the instructional designers at the center. I mostly concentrate my efforts in media design and development, which is the fun part for me, and I help out any way I can.
All right, and Miss Summer Burton is with us as well, on the team, but not a part of this specific project, but she is a program manager for another grant that you'll see in a minute right here. So what we do is we run ourselves out of the Center for Applied Environmental Public Health. It's a larger center based at the Tulane School of Public Health and Tropical Medicine. And underneath it, you can see we have the learning management system, which is what David is referring to when he says LMS administrator. So he kind of helps organize and clean and then communicate out some of the professional development trainings that we have. We have over 200 of them active, live, asynchronous, available to you 24/7, 365, anywhere in the world. They're rooted in Region 6 needs because we are a regional based, tend to be regional based training center, which is right next to the LMS slide here, the bubble in the middle, which is the Region 6 Public Health Training Center, sponsored by HRSA. We do have a few other trainings that are on the LMS that are not grounded in the HRSA mission of the training center. So we separate our training center away from our LMS. We have a lot of other goodies on there. So please take a look if you want to. Please note that a little bit of them are dated. They do come through funded mechanisms over the course of different funding cycles. We do not have sustainability funding a lot of times. And so some of those do get a little bit dated in the delivery. The ones that are dated in content, we will remove, but we're not going to remove any of them that are dated just because they were delivered in a modality that is now better, or we have better options now. We have to find the funding to replace that training at some point. And we are doing some active cleaning of that. About 22 new courses will be coming online in the very near future. But you can see in the middle, the Public Health Training Center, that is where the work that we're doing today or discussing today resides. And it is a mission area from HRSA that funds us to do active, proactive training needs in Region 6 finding out what it is they need, our practitioners out there in the space of public health practice. And as part of that, we have been missioned and charged with developing a leadership institute to deliver to y'all, which obviously you're here, so you have some interest in that. And next to that is another project that we have. It's a CDC funded mission area for public health emergency preparedness and response, and it's the Region 6 Center for Health Security and Response Readiness. So a little bit of history here. As you can see on the slide, HRSA funded these way back in 2000, and it's gone through various iterations. Within that, it also changed in the scope of who's involved in what area of each funded center. So over time, you can see that even beyond how FEMA was broken down from our regional partners that are now comprised of those 10 regions, it wasn't until 2014 that HRSA adopted that, and we became the Region 6 center. And with that, kind of broke away from our previous partner in Alabama and Mississippi. And now we are with the HHS and all of the federal government included, with Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and New Mexico. The mnemonic everybody refers to as TALON. That is our region. That is who we are working with, and hopefully that is where you reside and work. More importantly, work. Maybe you can live on the periphery, but as long as you're contributing to Region 6 public health, you are in the right spot. So you can see here, we started the Leadership Institute conversation in the mission area around 2020, and didn't get really launched until a little bit after that. So as you can see, the breakdown of those current 10 regions, each region has their own public health training center to meet the needs and accomplish the tasks that are actually delivered from HRSA. And we have a little bit of autonomy the way we organize ourselves, and a little bit of autonomy to the way we go about delivering, or should I say, finding the trainings and prioritizing some of the training needs. We can't possibly develop training for everybody's personal interests and professional interests, but we do have a pretty good pulse on what some of those interests are, and we try to accommodate as best we can. So how do we come up with some of these trainings, and how do we make sure we're meeting the needs of the public health workforce of Region 6? Well, you can see here, these are our partnerships that we have across Region 6. We call them our community-based training partners, and we have a long-running partnership with just about every one of these, more than multiple years. Let's put it that way. And we get feedback. We meet with them quite frequently. We get feedback from their personal and professional areas, what they're seeing, what their gaps are, and we work directly with them. Should there be a training need pop up or surface, and they want to do something, or maybe they've done it in their own organization and say, hey, I would really like to extend the reach of this, or I'd really might like to make this better. And that's when we bring in the Janines, the Stacys, and Davids and say, yeah, we can probably increase the reach and definitely make this a stronger training. We'll do so and put it on our LMS and prove it and put it on our LMS kind of thing. But you can see our partners are pretty extensive. We're always seeking more partnerships too. So this is not a finalized list. This will be a living list, and we do change it from time to time and bring others into the mix. So what is the Public Health Training Center? That is the center, as I mentioned, it's the HRSA funded center. 10 of us, we're in Region 6 again, but the mission there is directly improving the public health workforce of our region. We develop those trainings that are aligning with whatever their needs are. We also train the future public health workforce through various student-based internships. A master's of public health student, for example, across the Region 6 space is required to do a quasi internship. We call them applied practice experience. But we will sponsor a few of those over the course of each year. And we also provide technical assistance as needed, as we can. We get a lot of technical assistance. Some of them we can actually accomplish ourselves. Others we might be able to connect them better. Whoever's asking us to help them, we might be able to kind of be a conduit and direct them to a better solution, maybe an agency that can solve that problem if we can't. And so you can see down there the major activity. This is where the Leadership Institute resides. And so the purpose of this is to develop the next generation of leaders. And we don't want to belittle anybody's accomplishments thus far. What we're talking about is having the ability to take that mid-level emerging leader and give them some foundational skills, or maybe improve current foundational skills to prepare them to launch into that next position, hopefully still in Region 6, that will allow them to be a leader in a leadership position, and maybe even just bring some leadership skills, enhanced leadership skills to their current role. You'll see in a minute how we're actually looking at the recruitment and some of the eligibility criteria. But our approach, we learned pretty quickly as we had a 1 year planning, or should I say, we took a year to plan for this Leadership Institute back in about 2021 or so. We learned that Region 6 is quite large. If you haven't noticed, we cover a lot of geographical space. So to have everybody kind of even once or twice a year come to New Orleans or one centralized location, that's a heavy lift. That is not an easy thing to do. Driving, it's really difficult. Flying, it's really difficult. And so we thought we would just deliver this completely online in a virtual format. We will go through practice topics that are relevant to the regional needs, again, leveraging our CBT partners, but also some of our state leadership that are even beyond the actual partnerships that we have, and look at what some of the workforce needs are. This is 100% free, other than your time. The only thing we do commit to is or should I say, the only thing we require of you is a commitment to participate, actively participate. And so in bold, bright red there, as you probably know, since you're on this call, applications are open now for our Fall Leadership Institute. Our criteria for this, as stated online there on the screen, a mid-management professional is what we're really seeking. It's really hard for us to kind of convey what it is we're looking for. Mid-management doesn't always hit it either. Mid-career doesn't hit it either. We're looking at somebody that's been in the field for a handful or so years. You can see we want some sort of supervisory role. We want some sort of program leadership role and experience within each individual applicant. We're not necessarily here for the folks that have been there for 30 years, although we will review some of those applications too. We want that middle person, maybe not fresh out of graduate school, fresh out of undergraduate. We need some seasoned experiences here, but we are very, very open to any and all applicants. We don't want anybody not to apply, but the primary eligibility criteria, inclusion criteria, I should say, is you must work in Region 6 states, period. We cannot accept you if you do not. And you also must work in public health, obviously. But regardless, you could work in some sort of tribal group. You could work in a nonprofit sector. You could work in governmental sector, hospital sector. The sector is not as relevant other than some semblance or relevance to public health. We don't have an educational requirement. It is strictly off of what it is you bring to the table and what you've experienced in your workspace. You do have a commitment there to actively participate in the virtual sessions. They will be synchronous, but meaning you will attend at a certain time. We run them from 1 to 4 p.m. on 1 to 4 p.m. Central Time. Usually give you about 1 to 3, but we want that buffer just in case conversations go long. We don't want to cut you off. We want you to still remain engaged. But 1 to 4 is our open session. That is what each individual module will run for. We will record them, so you can view it asynchronously later, but we do require active participation during those hours. So I say a commitment from you to actively participate. You must also have some sort of buy-in and support from your leadership in your home agency to allow you to have that 1 to 4 p.m. block of time every other week to join us. One of the things that we always heard when we were kicking around the idea of running this Leadership Institute from our partnerships across the region, they said we need to actually do it during the workday. Having you do this stuff to improve the workforce on your own time was not very fair. Doing it at night or doing it on the weekend, the workforce was very positive and supportive of the idea of blocking off the actual workday to better invest their time in you to improve their own workforce through you. And so that's why we do it in the middle of the day, but we do require supervisory sign off so that you're not worried about any of this. You go back to your leadership and say, hey, I've been accepted into this Leadership Institute. I would love your support. Can you, or I'm applying to it. Can you give a letter of support that shows I will be able to participate? So that's kind of our workaround there to give you a more relaxed comfort area and support area from your own home institute. So
Stephen, can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, please.
Just to jump back up to the regional requirements. So work in one of the region's 6 states. If you do not, there are other options for you because each region does have a leadership institute. I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, good point, Chuck. Thanks. Bringing that back in. Those 10 regions, they all have their own training center, and each training center has been charged to develop their own leadership institute. So if you don't work in Region 6, we can connect you to the appropriate region. All right, so I think I've covered all of this. I'm going to go through a little bit of the topic areas here. They are, as I mentioned, synchronous live sessions. So what we will do is bring in experts from across the U.S. You might hear from some of us here at Tulane. You might hear from me. You might hear from another faculty member at Tulane. But the primary delivery expert is going to be someone else out in the U.S. that is a recognized voice in the topic area that we're trying to cover. In emotional intelligence, self-assessment it always kicks us off. We start with that with an outside consultant that used to be with the Air Force. He comes in and runs an entire session with you. And before that session, each student or cohort participant goes through and takes a self-assessment. He delivers a session on the aggregate data that is found in those self-assessments and then meets with each individual cohort participant one-on-one for an hour. And so you get that one-on-one engagement from a true expert that delivers a very, very good understanding of your state and your emotional intelligence and what type of leadership style you might connect better with at this point and where some areas that you might want to grow and how you might want to get there. That kind of sets the tone for each individual session that then follows so that you're viewing it through your own best effort to improve yourself. Other topic areas include recognizing your leadership style, making a business case for public health. We all know public health right now is a little bit challenged. Some of the funding has become a little bit unstable at times. So trying to maximize our budget experience and our financial experience. Many of our colleagues across Region 6 have come to us and said, I'm really struggling with budgets. I'm really struggling with finance. I went to get my master's of public health, or I am in public health without a master's degree or anything like that. I don't have a business background. So we thought bringing that session to you, it was really well received over the past couple of iterations of this. And so we're definitely keeping it in there. Public health ethics and professionalism. Storytelling has been a huge one. I think we're seeing some really big movement toward being able to really tell our story, what it is we do. Too many times public health gets caught in the crossfire, so to speak, because the only time people see it is when it fails. They don't recognize all the work that goes into public health that you all are doing out there in the U.S. and Region 6 specifically. So we're trying to bring that up and highlight that. We'll go through multiple communication sessions. Our communication sessions, hopefully, in the past, they've gotten people out of their comfort zones. put them in the spotlight of delivering a public health messaging campaign, for example, in a safe space with your participant, your fellow cohort mates. It's been really well received, great practice, and great professional advancement there. We'll go through some systems thinking, some leadership and organizational evolution, some team of teams conversations, and crisis leadership is also in there. We have not finalized each of these sessions with our content experts, but it is in the works. And we have done it before, so it's not like we're starting from scratch. So once that is finalized and everybody's availability that delivers these sessions is kind of ironed out, we will post the full session schedule in our little hub that we use for the accepted cohort. So as you can see here, the emotional intelligence conversation that I mentioned, your self-assessment, for those that will be accepted into the program, that will begin in August of 2026. So you'll have a couple of weeks prior, or should I say the acceptance will occur. You'll hear from us based on the application, and we will get in touch with you. And then between that and the beginning of the cohort itself, you will have a little bit of a lag. And during that lag, you will go through and take that self-assessment to be ready for session 1. And Timothy Dickens and the Dickens Associates will have that confidential one-on-one set up with you in the first couple of weeks of the actual cohort schedule. The sessions will go through early spring of 2027. They'll go every other Thursday, with the exception of holiday breaks that go from mid-December all the way through mid-January. So we'll have about 13 content sessions, give or take. And that usually takes us from about August through mid-spring of the following year. And there you go. I've mentioned this already, and to some extent, most sessions do run that 1 to 3 p.m. with a little bit of an hour there buffer just in case the conversation is really, really rich. Sometimes the sessions will go that long entirely. There may be 2 or 3 of them that might go that long. But we want to make sure that everyone understands the commitment is 1 to 4. If you get out a little early, that's gravy. They are interactive. I will tell you that our session leads intentionally try to get the folks that aren't talking or that are off camera. They will force you to participate. But we do encourage you to come ready to improve yourself. You can't really improve yourself if you're hidden behind a screen that's not actively filming you and you're not vocally participating. This is for you. This is an improvement for you to, or should I say, a way for you to improve yourself, brought to you 100% free of charge, except your time. So please come ready to do that. It will include a little bit of small group work from time to time. That allows us to help even further facilitate some peer-to-peer and mentor peer-to-peer, if you will, networking, growth, and learning opportunities. And we hope that then propels you into a cohort-based, if you will, feeling once we graduate the cohort, to maybe even take that into your workspace for years to come. We have seen tremendous traction in just the network establishment, the peer-to-peer network that organically gets produced in this institute. That's probably been one of the biggest improvement areas that our cohort participants have given us feedback on. They love it to be able to call up or email and say, hey, Jim, I was in your cohort. Obviously, you would know one another, and just use each other's sounding boards. Hey, I've got this project. I got this issue. Hey, would you mind helping telling me what you did? I remember you saying something in your own jurisdiction that you'd gone through something like this. I'd love some help. And so that's been a really big area that we've seen some growth in. So we will have evaluations at the end of each session to help us improve. We want to make sure we're hitting the mark. We want to make sure that the workload is not overextensive. We want to make sure that it's actually helping you reach what it is. We can't meet everyone's expectations in totality, but we can try our best to meet a lot of them. And so the evaluation is really quick, but you will have that at the end of each session. You may have some homework, pre-reads into each session, maybe a little bit of homework just to kind of set the tone and then kind of put a bow on each session at the end of it. It won't be exhausting. It won't be too much. We have gone back and forth on the volume of pre-reads and homework. One group said it was too much, so we toned it down a little bit, and that group said we didn't get enough. We want more. So it's kind of a delicate balance. We go back and forth. So the cohort itself, once it's accepted, we will use our training center, which is why I mentioned it earlier. Our learning management system will become our hub. And if you've been out of academics for a while, or you're not familiar with learning management systems, we will give you access to a sandbox, so to speak, where only the existing cohort will have access to, our team and you. And that will then list all of our sessions. It will provide you the recordings of the previous sessions. It will provide you any type of pre-read that you have or any type of follow-up work that you have. It will have a discussion thread that you can keep active and live throughout the entire cohort. For us, if you needed it, for a colleague, if you wanted to run it, or just to use the entire cohort as a sounding board on a project or an idea. We will use it to introduce ourselves as well once the cohort is formed, to allow everybody to see who's in your cohort and learn as best we can about one another before we even hit the ground on day one. It's a really easy thing to do. All it requires is a registration, free of charge, of course. You just register for it, and David will do some magic behind the scenes and pull you into that cohort. All right, so I think I just mentioned all of that, except the fact that live attendance is mandatory. We know life happens, not only professionally, but also real life at home. We have some flexibility with you, and we definitely understand how those things can interfere with any kind of extracurricular activity like this. Just give us a heads up if you see something coming down the pike that might prevent you from attending, or something happens at work or at home that says, I'm not going to be able to make this session. We can't, being fully transparent, we can't graduate everybody if they aren't participating in a large portion of our live sessions. That's just a HRSA requirement, and we're not going to be able to bend that. So please, if you get accepted into it and are ready to go, a heads up for those sessions you can't be there goes a long way. Other than that, we do expect you to be there and fully contributing to the actual delivery and the session content. At the end of the day, we will graduate you. You will get a certificate of achievement that has our branded logos on it. And you will receive that as well as a challenge coin, which has really been a nice thing that the cohorts in the past have received. They've enjoyed that. We do not give those to anyone else. So they are strictly for the actual Leadership Institute. So it's kind of a unique thing. And again, your network of peers is just obviously going to increase. At the end of it, we do have a LinkedIn alum I guess, account, if you will, that we can pull you into that group. And we're going to actively post different things in there just to keep everybody kind of alive together and learning, continuing to learn. Hopefully that kind of further supports our peer-to-peer learning and mentorship and our networks as we always continue to grow them. And here's how we actually apply. If you did not have this already, David can post this in the chat, and we can send this through email as well to all of you. But the applications are live, and you can see a sample application here as well. We do require the application to be 100% complete. There are certain things that we need to have from you so that we can get a good idea of who you are and what kind of experience you're bringing to the table. It will require a resume as well as the questions. We are not going to ask you to regurgitate your resume like some of these job applications out there. That is, I can't stand it when I hear that still happening. Hey, upload your resume and then tell us all your work experience. It's really duplicative and redundant and unnecessary. Our questions are not going to do that. Our questions are driving at more about who you are and what type of experiences you've had in the public health workforce space. So don't shy away from writing us something long. We'd rather it be longer than shorter. That gives us a better idea of where you are in your work life. And again, that letter of support, once accepted, we will need to have that too. All right, so I will pause right there and open the floor for any questions or comments. I think we've had a few folks join us midstream, so please feel free to ask anything. We have several chats here. Should we? Oh, yes, Michael.
Hey,
Go ahead.
Dr. Murphy, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hey, thanks for the opportunity and kind of orienting us to the program. And I was recommended by a mentor, right, to check it out. So I appreciate the the visibility and kind of explaining. I do have a question about the live sessions, right? And
Okay.
so it sounds like there's no final product or presentations we have to deliver, but throughout those 13 sessions, which what I appreciate about the program, it looks like we collaborate, we work with each other, we'll work in small groups, there's give and take, activity promotes learning, right? Some of those things. So I think what I understand is there's no final presentations or projects that we'd have to work on. Is that a true statement?
Yeah, that is correct. So there's no comprehensive final presentation group related project. Each session has its own kind of has its own tone, really. And that's
Okay.
up to the subject matter expert. Sometimes they will have you work on, say, public messaging within the session, and each group will come up with a different kind of message and deliver that to the team or to the entire cohort, if you will. Some folks will have you work more individually on your own growth, maybe not team based on some sort of segment that's related to the actual module. But that's really about it. There's really no comprehensive presentation at the end. There's no final exam at the end. There's definitely nothing of that nature.
Yeah, just the last question for me, but I may have missed it, but how big are your cohorts? You
Oh,
kind
good
of
question.
mentioned
Yeah, that's probably something we should have put in there. That's a good question. We, I think, just recently graduated 31, if I'm not mistaken. The first cohort was intentionally a little bit smaller before we got we wanted to make sure we had a little bit of a better grip on the reins before we launched into that space. It was only about 14 or so. But the past two have been a little bit bigger, and we're looking at anywhere between 30 and 40. It tends to be the sweet spot. That's where we would like to land again.
Okay, great. Thanks, Dr. Murphy.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I see a lot in the chat. Do we have a schedule of meetings? There we go, David. Yep. Okay. All that's been posted. Okay. Feel free to come off mute if I haven't caught up or if you have something that hasn't been addressed in the chat. As promised, there would be a little bit of time for Q&A, and if not, we get some time back. And that's always a plus when we can give you time back. I haven't figured out how to stop time altogether, but if I can give you some back, that's almost there. Michael, go ahead. Oh,
Sorry, I'll add another question if that's okay.
yeah, please go ahead.
I do appreciate Dave Mora, right, putting in he was talking about the management system. I can't think of PACE, I think was it called.
Yeah.
Is that how all communications will happen, right? Because I know when we do apply, right, we use our personal email or maybe professional email, but is all communication through the PACE system?
Hey Michael, it's David. So what we do is we will post in the hub is where you'll be in the LMS, and that once you're accepted, you're added to this hub. Again, like Dr. Murphy said, it's restricted only to the cohort members. The way that we communicate is we do post everything in the hub, but you are also, everybody in the cohort is sent an email if there is a reminder for an upcoming session, or if there's pre-work or post-work. Everything is also sent to the cohort via an email.
All right, great. Thanks, David.
And that's a good question, because a lot of times, if you're like me, my team is probably going to laugh at this, but I get a few emails and I get lost sometimes. So when we have an email sent out, we do that as a courtesy, but we also understand that these things can get buried. So everything that is relevant to the work of the cohort is also kind of duplicated and living in the hub. So you can always go to the hub and find it if you can't find it through your inbox quickly. There will be calendar invites also sent for each session with the Zoom link in it well in advance. So it will block it on your calendar. You will have that already in your Microsoft calendar, whatever calendar you provide us.
And the good thing too, with the meetings, is the Zoom link is permanent, so it does not change. So if you, for whatever reason, didn't get, or the invite didn't open up, you would have that dedicated link that you would know to go to. It doesn't change.
All good questions. What else is out there? Anything? So I think this is what, 20 minutes time back. You still got us. We'll hang on here a little bit longer. But please, you can visit the website there. We've dropped a lot in the chat. David's been driving the chat with a lot of links for the application. Please feel free to reach us at that collective email. Several of us get that actual email address, so somebody's going to see it a lot quicker than I will. As Michael noted, just because it's sent doesn't mean it's read or seen. So somebody on our team will see it and get back to you. Again, this is a HRSA funded mission, so it's brought to you prepaid, so to speak. So this is a great opportunity to take advantage of something that is right in your backyard. The only thing we require is just some dedication, commitment, and a little bit of time. So it's been a pretty successful story across the U.S. Our colleagues in the other regions have seen extremely positive feedback as well. So it's a really good chance to connect with your regional partners and colleagues, and hopefully we can maybe even someday bring all the regions together. That would be a dream, is to bring some of those alums in other regions and cross-pollinate with one another, but we're not quite there yet. How long is the session? I see that. So each session is 1 to 4 p.m. every other Thursday. So it is a 3-hour commitment, but rarely do they go 3 hours. It usually is about 2 to 2.5. But it is a full window of 3 hours that we're asking of you. Some sessions do go that long, but not all of them.
Hey, Dr. Murphy and team.
Yes, sir.
Hey, just given the state of play of the federal government, right, and fiscal constraints or restrictions, any risk of this? I mean, I think you've addressed it a little bit at the beginning, but any risk of this as we're going through this, if you're accepted into the cohort and you're going through the program, of us losing or dropping out of it? I mean, just thoughts.
Any risk of your...
Well, just not like the program not getting funded, right? Or you saying, hey, it's grant funded, so we're good for the next cohort that's going to start, this 12-month cycle over.
Yep, good question. Good question. So we are still in some sense of uncertainty, but we are going forward, so we're not caught off guard should we roll. We have been told funding will continue. That's what we have to go by. And hopefully that will come to fruition. We've been told within the next 2 weeks, we should know confirmation, or not know confirmation. We will receive confirmation. But for all we know, we are quite positive and receive positive comments that this will continue this year. And we wanted to go ahead and start the process so we aren't behind the curve. But good question. Full
Wow.
transparency, you're right. This is grant funded. It's sometimes less stable than in years past.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Just in case we got to do bake sales or car washes.
I'll add to that we have been specifically advised to move forward with our regular timeline on the Leadership Institute.
Yep, good point. That is from our project officer at HRSA saying that. So, but good questions. And on the flip side of that, which is something that might not be as comforting either. Sometimes our cohort that gets accepted says my job got moved, or I moved out of Region 6, or I'm not sure if my current job is going to continue. I got to, I'm taking a different role. Please let us know and we can work with you on that. Some folks, for example, like federal employees that are based in Region 6 that have gone through this, we've had several. They get redirected in other regions, so we can't continue necessarily. But there are some situations that we can work with you on. Our reporting just has to be aligned with that Region 6 workforce. So if it is a different role that you're accepting, just let us know. If you are accepted to the cohort and change that career, we need to have that conversation, so to speak. All right. Well, if there are no more questions, you know how to get us should something pop up, and I will give you back a couple of minutes and hopefully see some applications from some of you in the very near future. And again, you got several weeks to get that in. And if something were to happen and you needed an extra day or two, please let us know in advance. But we will review them as soon as possible and get some acceptance letters very shortly thereafter. Thanks to everyone for your time. As David mentioned in the chat, June 15th is the due date. So we look forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks again for joining us today. We look forward to hearing from you all soon.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.